Welcome, family, back. This is part 4 of Worlds Beyond the Poles. No forest on flat earth. Abizaid. We're going to get more into that book. Vibrate with us. Love to everybody new that's joining us. A lot of new members, you know what I'm saying? Cats that, are leaving great, beautiful, breadcrumbs and energy, adding to the frequency that we're in. And to the things that we've been building over here. So, much love to you, much love to you. We are in the drop library, as you can see, and I'm gonna go right into it this time, and we're gonna keep walking that path. You have a lot of areas to dig on, man. By the way, hi Mark, love to you, man. Yeah, Annals of the Cachiquels, Annals of the Cachiquels. There you go, right there, fam. Alright, let's get back into it. I put a different link up now. The other one was the Google Books joint. But this one is actually a Google Drive link that everyone could actually download. The actual PDF is very hard to find. Of Worlds Beyond the Poles. Don't have my brother's name in front of me, but thank you. You know who you are for providing this link. And I advise everyone to download it as quickly as possible because these links don't stay up forever. It's hard to find it. They take it down again. This book is worth over 500 something, you know what I mean? So this information is high priced info. And a lot of times that means that they know you're not going to read it, right? Unless you were really interested. So go ahead and dig on it. I already got it up here. So if you take a moment, download it, and then just pull it up. We're on page 26. This is chapter 2. Last time, I think it skipped the entire chapter 2. It was trying to give us chapter 3, so I caught that, and I said, wait a minute, where's chapter 2? So now we got the full link up, so let's go. Love to everybody in the classroom, surfing the wave, man. Hey, hey. This is creation. This is understanding, all right? The connected universe, mistress of deception. Let us remember, it is the brain that sees, and that the human eye is only a faulty window which shows us but an infinitesimal portion of the universe about us. Alright? So you think you're seeing with your eyes, but the brain is what's seeing and putting those light patterns in order. However, if your brain is programmed to perceive a certain light pattern a certain way, then it is programmed, and you have to understand that you've been programmed to see in the illusion and not see in reality. So we see figure 1 indicates the deceptions experienced in the telescopic observation of the universe about us, but it is not intended to show the true contour of the universe whole. It is meant to express only the salient features of physical continuity. It shows how all connected lands and sky areas of the universe have positive continuity with the Earth, but it also shows how every sky area of the universe must deceptively appear to telescopic detection as a globular area. So it's a deception that these things look like globular areas in these sky areas that are all connected. Nothing is isolated. And that deception of globularity imposes the delusion that the areas are isolated. Connecting areas or parts of the illustration's luminous outer sky. Curves may be considered star areas between the planets, though the illustration shows them all more or less alike. There does exist variation in the luminous depth, but they are all areas of the luminous outer sky surface of the universe. Variations in luminous depth result from differences in intensity of gaseous sky content. Such variations in turn develop differences in the astronomer's spectrum and spectroscopic Skeptic analysis. All luminous areas of the universe illustrations are, in common with the universe it represents, observable parts of an infinitely continuous and unbroken outer sky surface. That's amazing, right? It covers underlying celestial land, water, and ice as it covers such elements of the terrestrial. I have hot tea today, so I will be drinking my hot tea before it gets cold. So just imagine that. So what we're seeing and what we're thinking as this darkness and these isolated balls of something, it's merely a lens deception. And in reality, it covers underlying celestial land, water, and ice as it covers such elements of the terrestrial. Alright, and we saw this diagram before. Land to sky, 7 to 10 miles. Any part of Earth's luminous outer sky, as proven, is just another star or planet. So any part of Earth's luminous sky, outer sky, as proven, is just another star or planet. So when you see a star or planet, that's another part of Earth's luminous outer sky. The atmosphere in these luminous regions that's connected land and water. All right. All right, let's get it. There's also shown the region of atmospheric density between land surface and inner blue sky. The distance in the same at celestial level as it is at terrestrial level, and the oxygen content is sufficient to sustain vegetation and life at celestial level. So it is sufficient to sustain vegetation. The oxygen content on these levels is the same. In the Copernican concept of planetary oscillation of sun, the sun is assumed to occupy the center of the dark stratosphere, and connecting outer sky areas of the universe are assumed to be isolated units. And they are assumed to perform a rotative movement around the sun center of a mathematically prescribed universe subdivision known as the solar system. That solar system arrangement, which embraces the Earth, represents something of a combined celestial and terrestrial pinwheel. To make the easier comprehension of physical continuity, the pinwheel's solar system center, or sun, has in a way been pulled out to afford it reasonable placement as a guide or leader for the entire connected universe. As the illustration shows, every previously assumed isolated area of the universe whole, including the Earth, holds its original position in the universe structure, and every area maintains its daily and yearly relation to the sun. Accordingly, the illustration shows how the land and sky of the celestial extend to and connect with the Earth's imaginary pole points. It shows that we may move beyond the Earth without falling off the edge or falling off the ends. But they tell you you're on a spinning ball, so you don't even comprehend this stuff. They were talking about the edge of the Earth a long time ago, and you thought the conversation was over because science says so. No, don't go too far. No, you don't even talk about falling off because they fixed that, right? They put you on a spinning ball. Once they got you on a spinning ball, you're not worried about falling off anything or examining beyond an extent that is being taught to you as a known universe or known world. You stop having a dialogue of other worlds. It's just planets that, unless you're a NASA astronaut, you'll never reach. So it's unattainable to 99.99999% of us because we're not astronauts. But now, well, we all have legs. We can all just walk. We can all keep going. So that's harder for your oppressor to keep you in if you understand you can just keep going. You don't have to be locked down in certain areas. What are they doing with you in these certain areas? How are they controlling you as sheep? The following descriptive material, I'm right here, in conjunction with the illustration should afford simple guidance for comprehension of the factual universe as was created. The dark center represents the perpetually dark stratosphere surrounding the terrestrial and the celestial. It is part of the dark void of infinity wherein the universe whole was created. The luminous outer parallel disk to be observed against stratospheric darkness represents the sky light developed over all areas of the universe, a continuity of the same blue sky we observe from land surface everywhere on the terrestrial, is seen by inhabitants of every other universe area when they as do we look up or out from their respective land surface positions. Again, you would look like a star from that position of the celestial land, right? Our atmosphere would illuminate the same way that their atmosphere illuminates. And looking through their inner blue sky at night, they observe the luminosity of our gaseous outer sky areas in precisely the same manner we observe their outer sky luminosity against the darkness. Right, so who is they? They is whoever lives in these celestial lands. Who did the Most High said will be bound in this first heaven? This first heaven is the underworld, right? Because it's under the firmament still. They're trapped in a celestial land under the firmament. So who else can dwell there but angels? Either by order that are there to look over other angels, or that are trapped now because they can't ascend above the vibrational barrier known as the firmament. So again, when we give our energy to the celestial, we're giving our energy to entities that are in these celestial land masses and areas of waters above. In looking through the inner blue sky at night, they observe the luminosity of our gaseous outer sky areas in precisely the same manner we observe their outer sky luminosity against the darkness. Since their lenses cannot be expected to penetrate through areas of our luminous skylight and detect the land under our sky, it is most likely that they have deduced as erroneously of our and we have of their land, as erroneously of our and we have of their land. That's a weird sentence. All right, part number 3. Therefore, the inner side of all outer luminous disc-like areas of the illustration may be understood to respect the familiar gaseous sky envelope observable from any terrestrial location as our particularly blue sky. From all other land. Okay, that's what it is. This part right here is cut off for me. It's like, I know I'm not tripping. I'll read better than that. I know dang well. Here we go. So we can try to put together these letters that's supposed to be here, right here. So from all other land areas of the universe, the blue sky likewise seen represents the particular sky of inhabitants of such areas. Inasmuch as recent U.S. naval stratosphere photographs of outer sky areas prove them to be luminous and presenting the identical appearance of celestial areas, confirmation something had that there exists the same gaseous sky content for the celestial as it is known to envelope the terrestrial. Since the luminosity of outer terrestrial sky areas correspond to that of outer celestial sky areas, it follows that atmospheric conditions underlying the sky envelope where our celestial cousins dwell must correspond to atmospheric conditions prevailing at terrestrial level. Thus, the inner blue sky must also correspond throughout the entire universe. Our experiments show that without the existence of an inner blue sky of gaseous content, there could be no luminous outer sky, which is an expression of sky gas, to be observed over terrestrial or celestial areas. Very interesting. So you need that, you know what I'm saying, particular blue, you know what I'm saying, without this inner sky blue, in order to get this particular illumination, is what we're saying. Very interesting. Hence, any Martians, Venetians, Jupiterians, and whatever that one is, there's something, looking up or out from their respective land positions, something during the day, permitted to view their gaseous blue sky envelope with the same varying depth or shades of blue that we observe in our blue sky. The depth of blue will depend upon atmospheric conditions prevailing at various celestial locations at the time of observations. So when we're calling on Martians and whoever from Venus and Jupiter, you already know. You already know who's Jupiter, right? Jesus. You know who they worship Jupiter, right? Jesus, right? Alright, so our cousins, right? So we're calling on angels here. And that's where they're dwelling. In those lands. Alright. Further, as the celestial sky chemical content or gaseous intensity varies from time to time and from place to place, as does the content of our sky, it produces a corresponding variation in the intensity of outer sky luminosity to be observed against the dark stratosphere by remote observers everywhere. Therefore, the inner areas of the illustration denoting celestial and terrestrial and celestial sky as observed from land surface should not be of a excuse me, constant blue depth. So, therefore, the inner areas of the illustration denoting terrestrial and celestial sky as observed from land surface should not be of a constant blue depth. By the same token, the outer sky luminosity will not be constant, but there are variations to luminous quality. As will be later shown, variations to luminous sky movement produce or accompany change of blue and luminous sky expressions. Sometimes when we see these things in telescopes, we see different vibrations, you know what I'm saying, popping off up close. You know what I'm saying? So it's very interesting with this globe, with this lens deception, you know what I'm saying? You know, how how reality really, you know, can separate from illusion real quick. At night, inhabitants of all other parts of the universe observe seemingly globular and isolated areas of our luminous outer sky in the same manner as we are permitted to observe luminous, seemingly globular and isolated areas of their sky. They are permitted to see only the outer luminous expression of our sky as we see luminous areas of their outer sky. Since their most powerful telescopes cannot penetrate through our sky light, they cannot hope to see our land. All right, man, like, how do we know about how powerful their telescopes are? Now we're just kind of being, you know, I don't know. I'm going to pull the babies out, but, you know, I'm going to speak up now. They cannot hope to see our land or our blue sky as we see it until they arrive at our particular land position. Neither can we hope to see their land or their inner blue sky areas until we arrive on the land under their blue sky, as our powerful telescope lenses cannot penetrate through skylight of the celestial. We have been unable to detect the land and vegetation under the luminous sky enveloping the entire celestial realm. So my point is just that just because our most powerful telescopic lenses cannot penetrate through skylight of the celestial does not mean that the celestial's powerful telescopic lenses cannot see us in detail. All right, so, you know, just keeping it open. You know what I mean? Moreover, over the luminous outer surface of our entire terrestrial sky, which we know extends unbrokenly, other dwellers of the universe are compelled to observe millions of apparently globular and therefore seemingly isolated bodies. There are all luminous sky areas. They are all luminous sky areas, and their number would depend on the power of observing telescope lenses and other physical factors hereon described. 7. Nowhere throughout the length and width of our terrestrial land and sky, or throughout the endless land and sky of the created universe, do disks, spheres, or globes actually exist. Despite their seeming existence, they are entirely lens created. They represent the most striking examples of lens illusions ever known to man. Therefore, the illustrations, inner blue sky, horizontal curves, and the outer luminous sky curves are all intended to indicate the deceptions experienced in observation. Neither the earth nor any part of the universe about the earth curves in agreement with the deceptions of curvature here presented. We may grant such curves realism only insofar as they have been created by the lenses. No lens can escape producing a curve at the proper distance of the horizontal or the perpendicular. As previously related, the physical structure and properties of all lenses demand that the curve be created. Then the lens-created curve is accentuated by concept into the full-bodied and isolated curve, globe, or sphere as distance from the photographed or telescopically observed area or object is increased. There is in reality no such curvature to the endless sky and land continuous throughout the universe. The only such curvature that might possibly exist, in which we could never hope to determine, would be that of a conceptual nature, having the universe as a whole curved in infinite time and space. So if you want your ball, I'll give you your universal ball. But I'm not going to give you an earth ball. I'm not going to say you're on a ball of earth water spinning. I'm going to say maybe you're in a conceptual, curving, universal reality. Right? But your land and water is not curving in a ball. Your flat plane is a melanated true earth plane, and it is fixed, firm, and immovable. But are you in a conceptual, universal, curved type of situation in the fourth dimension? We can conceptualize all day, but don't tell me that if I take a train from LA to New York, which I've done numerous times, that those train tracks were engineered for curvature, when the engineers themselves are coming out now saying that we have never, factored in curvature when building bridges. These railroads, what the indigenous people were factoring in curvature for the hundreds of miles of curvature that would need to take place between LA and New York City. This is when we start using our brains and say, I don't think they factored the curvature of all these miles of curvature to fit this ball, to stay on a ball going 3,000 miles when it's damn near clear you're going damn near flat the whole time. Okay? So the only such curvature that might possibly exist, in which we would never hope to determine, would be that of a conceptual nature, having the universe as a whole curve in infinite time and space. Granting such an unverifiable arrangement for the connected universe whole would in no way interfere with the all-important factor that the universe is connected and continuous, and that journey may be had to all areas thereof by movement on the same physical level with the earth. That indicated movement would be straight ahead, north from the North Pole and south from the South Pole. Photographs taken whenever and wherever in Peru. We're back. We always come back home. Y'all don't think this is connected until we dig in on it. Photographs taken whenever and wherever in Peru, in Asia Minor, or in our own Rocky Mountains. We home. In no way prove that the so-called curvature of the earth, prove the curvature of the earth. They prove only that the utilized lenses could not avoid developing curves that have been mistakenly interpreted as applicable to the Earth's contour. The lens itself created the curvature in the same manner that the optic lens, by grace of its structure and function, creates curves and deceptive horizons within the experience of everybody. We all think we're seeing these horizons instead of our own law of perception. Things always appear to fall from a distance. The sun appears to go down because it's going further away from you. It looks like it's going down based on law of perception. Let's keep going. For example, excuse me as I get my tea, enjoy the melody. Remember, you're just in the library. You're just moving and grooving. Keep checking it out. We'll definitely try to get some of this Abizaid as well before we get out of here. We'll get some of that. And I just added a couple more. We'll keep adding a couple more, you know what I mean? And just keep building it up. Love to, my man Uno just sent me like, man, PDF, son. So I got a lot more to add to the library, man. Thanks to Uno, man. Love to your king. All right. Love to let us find the truth, man. Who keeps so many great resources. Everybody can download all this stuff and so much more from Let Us Find the Truth, man. Check them out. Keep vibrating. Keep vibrating. All right. Let's go. For example, does the sky really curve down or meet the water or the land where horizons indicate it does? We know now that it doesn't, despite appearances, because physical contact with such horizontal points proves there is no such meeting. Physical contact with such horizontal points prove there is no such meeting. Does the square or U-shaped opening to a tunnel draw together as it appears to do, or become globular to our sight as distance within a dark tunnel and away from daylight at the opening is increased? Though it deceptively appears to draw together and become globular, experience has taught us that the entrance retains its original shape and size. Does not the square atop a brick chimney become deceptively globular as photographing altitude is increased directly over the chimney opening? Such deceptive appearance must be imposed by the lens. Knowledge dictates that the chimney opening does not become globular. One of the classical and most common expressions of the unavoidable deceptions ensuing from lens function is that of the two separate railroad tracks which seem to merge or meet in the distance. So you'll see railroad tracks in a distance. It looks like the two tracks become one. Right? These are just our own, you know what I'm saying, perception and visual illusions, you know what I'm saying? But we're not familiar with it. A very modern example of illusion resulting from lens function is presented in the flight of jet planes. As the speedy jet is observed moving on a direct horizontal course from east to west or vice versa, it must deceptively appear to be shooting up on the perpendicular, then prescribing a definite curve or arc as it approaches. Then, as it passes overhead and recedes in the distance, it appears to be dropping down to the land surface. This jet's horizontal course remains the same from the time it was sighted on one horizon until it was lost to view at the opposite horizon, but the lens develops the illusion that the jet was first shooting up and then shooting down. Nothing more vividly attests that the lens produces the curve. These examples, plus 1,000 others that could be cited eloquently, express that all lenses are subject to functional error at the optic lens for all lenses were patterned after the human eye lens. This means that the lens itself is drawing to a focal point, creates the illusionary curve, and that curvature illusion in turn produces globular areas and objects where in fact nothing rounded or globular exists. Therefore, as the inner blue sky seemingly dips or curves to meet the land or water, under the power of lens convergence which creates our horizon, so do the luminous outer sky areas of the universe suffer the same affliction. It makes no difference if the sky area is of 100 miles or 100,000 miles. As distance is increased, the original illusionary curve becomes deceptively filled in the body property, and there is projected the further illusion of the completely globular and isolated areas. In such manner does the universe about us become cluttered with isolated, globular, and spherical objects, spherical bodies that have no part in the structure of the universe. I'll say it again. In such manner does the universe about us become cluttered with isolated, globular, and spherical bodies that have no part in the structure of the universe. In the 1931 Stratosphere Ascent of Professor Auguste Piccard, the photographing camera lens produced a partial disk of the terrestrial sky area which Piccard barely penetrated at an altitude of 10 miles. That disk development, which was referred to as upturned disk, was partially only because sufficient distance had not been achieved from the gaseous sky area. In the subsequent 1935 Air Corps ascent to the altitude of 14 miles, there was sufficient distance from the sky area, and the particular disk became rounded out to present the appearance of a complete disk. One may more readily understand that the lens development of curves and disks if one holds in mind a picture of the first quarter or crescent moon, or mentally flows its monthly course of filling in or completion to the full moon. Confirmation since 1935 of the unfailing development of the illusions described in all telescopic observation of the universe about us attests to the reality of physical continuity. Every foot of the endless celestial empire telescopically observed and astronomically designates stars, planets, etc., is therefore shown to be as physically connected as Figure 2 describes, without illusionary curves. The celestial is shown to be as much a continuance of this earth area as the various countries of the earth are physically connected. Wow. Hey, I need you to dig on it and do your research. Don't just reject something because it seems crazy. And made continuous by the known land and water links. Alright, there's links. Alright, there's more to this game than you thought. The terrestrial has affinity with the celestial in the same manner that the status or states of the United States are affiliated with the national whole. Except for DC, of course, but that's another subject. There must deceptively appear to be physically disconnections in the universe whole, where each faultily observed celestial and terrestrial sky area, in being brought to convergence under lens functioning, seemingly becomes isolated from its neighboring area, as previously described, an inescapable condition of observation. Strange as it may seem, the necessary allowances for such a handicap of observation have never been made, because the handicap, though known to be applicable to observations at terrestrial level, is denied application to observations at celestial level. Alright, dig on this, man. Complete domination by the mathematical prescription of celestial mechanics, though that though that prescription contains no ingredients from the universe of reality, has endowed illusions developed in telescopic observations of the universe with the reality they cannot and do not possess. How many times this cat got to tell you that you're living in the matrix? How many times you got to hear that what you see ain't real? You should be seeing dolphins, right? Remember that? Therefore, we should never lose sight of the fact that the designation of celestial areas as the globular and isolated is at the best a vague assumption within the world of the astro-mathematician, rather than a creative fact within the world of things of which we are part. With further observation of Figure 1, one may realize that were one occupying any area of the illustrated universal whole, or observing any area thereof from a stratosphere position, the depicted curved and luminous outer sky areas of the terrestrial and celestial would deceptively appear as full-bodied, isolated globular entities. This observational condition would result from the fact that when the luminous curved surface area is detected, one's mind is automatized to fill in the body's portion. In the drawing, it is not possible to show the full globularity which such curved areas impose on the mind and make for the concept of isolation. Average intelligence can readily discern that the luminous curved areas will not be connected through observation. They are always detected. Though connected here for illustrative purposes, observation would hold a dark area at every point of connection. Thus would there develop the concept of their isolation. Study of the, remember they flipped everything inside out, right? So they took something, that should look like dolphins, and they said, no, look at it this way. The illusion of seclusion, the matrix. Study of the inner sky curves may serve as a guide for understanding that the lens does not conveniently prepare appearances as illustrated. The lens does just the contrary. It serves each connection. It severs each connection. Then stratosphere darkness envelopes each curved area on both sides and underneath. In so doing, the area becomes isolated to all appearances. Though the inner sky curves have also been drawn as connected, the lens observing any area of the blue sky causes it seemingly to curve down to underlying land and water. In such manner are the horizons produced. The blue sky and the outer luminous sky continue unbrokenly and in infinitum, or to infinity, as shown in Figure 2. But the lens must deny such realistic continuity. Life is no more than our individual concept of life. We all see and believe only that which we want to see and believe. Hence, primed observations are always of doubtful value, as dubious as spies. Non-existent celestial, globular, and spherical areas are clothed with reality through the capricious of optic lenses, aggravated by other lenses, and conceptual enlargement of the faulty image. Everything's faulty you see. Every image NASA puts up is faulty. They admit that they are composites, not reality. So long as one observes luminous celestial and terrestrial sky curves produced by the lens and holds the illusionary globe to be reality, it is unlikely that anything but globes and spheres will be encouraged regardless of the power of telescopic lenses. Moreover, the assumed Earth sphere and its companion celestial pseudospheres have become so firmly fixed in mind that presentations of such spheres, which naturally show full body properties, are accepted as being factually descriptive of the composition of the universe. They know what they're doing. That's the part that got to, rub people the wrong way. You knew I would see it that way. You knew you could lie if you gave me these telescopes, right? These lenses. Such acceptance had in spite of the overpowering fact that no telescopic observer and no photographing camera ever recorded realistic body proportions for any area of the universe. They haven't even searched out your oceans, but they've searched Mars, not the ocean on Earth. You still believe they have the power to do the things they say they can do, but they have never searched the oceans of Earth. They've only searched 3 out of 2,000 habitation sites around the Grand Canyon, leaving over 1.5 or 1.8 million acres that they still have not even looked at in close range at the Grand Canyon. And you think they've discovered things on planets that are not planets? The lens detected and reproduced only a disc-like surface which was credited with body fullness. Therefore, the glamorously portrayed Earth globe and its celestial counterparts present nothing more profound than an outstanding expression of lens error and human misconception based on that error, plus the artificial embellishment of globe symbols, graven images by otherwise capable artists. All right, artists. NASA spends most of their budget on artists to paint an illusion of somebody else's mind. All right, who likewise are under the domination of the popular misconception. Modern discovery establishes that the assumed isolation of the terrestrial from the celestial is a fallacy. The Earth's northern connecting land link with the celestial is confirmed by extensive penetration of land beyond the North Pole point of theory. In February 1947, a U.S. Naval Arctic Expedition Force under the command of Rear Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd achieved a memorable 17-hour flight over land extending beyond the northern geographic center, or mathematically prescribed northern end of the Earth. That flight confirmed that there is no northern physical end to the Earth, and that the 1543 conclusions were most premature. The northern physical continuity of the Earth with celestial areas of the universe also has its counterpart in the land now known to extend beyond the South Pole. All future physical progress beyond the imaginary North and South Pole points must and will lead into real land areas of the universe appearing up or out from our present terrestrial position. We may move as Rear Admiral Byrd moved beyond the North Pole and out of physical bounds of this Earth on the same physical level as this Earth. Our movement into land areas of the universe about us need never vary from known movement in journeys from New York City to Chicago, or Boston to Hong Kong, or between whatever terrestrial points one is pleased to consider. We may fly the distance with means now at hand, or we may journey in any of the other established modes for making possible journeys from city to city and from nation to nation of the terrestrial area. Wow. Focus on that for a second. Just read that. So you think that you need a spaceship to go to Mars, or that landmass, that water? In reality, you can journey there on boat. You can journey there on plane. Any other way you travel. You just got to keep going. But they won't let you keep going. That's when you realize you're trapped. And that's when all this shit hits the fan. They say, oh shit, we didn't want y'all to know we trapped y'all asses. so that we can get the rest of the resources and keep everything else to ourselves. While you fight over, resources, and we say that you're overpopulated on your ball, they are chilling and doing their thing in other lands. When they launch off their space rockets, where do you think they go? Where do you think they go? They never go straight up, right? So they just curve until they go straight across into another world, another landmass. They just fly across the poles. That's your Mars and Venus. Let's go. Let's finish it out. Alright, so you can get there just like you're going from New York to Chicago. Except for the vast ice barriers of the Arctic and Antarctic regions, especially of the Antarctic, we might even walk. However, early explorers found walking and dog sled movement most unsuitable transportation over frigid polar areas. This is one of the reasons why there is no concerted early effort to peer over the top of the world. Alright, so-called to determine what actually exists beyond the supposed terrestrial ends. Further reason may have been that one does not seriously attempt to penetrate into a beyond which his concept denies. So if you don't believe in it, you think you're on a ball, you won't even look for it. Your concept denies it. If concept has not first established a thing or condition, in this case land beyond the poles, it cannot and does not exist despite its reality. You might tell your brothers and sisters there's more land. They might be like, nope, I'm on a ball spinning. You might say, I'm conscious. They'll say, man, me too. But I'm spinning forever. Alright? Despite the lamentable restrictions of theory, men have persistently wondered about the Earth's extent. The earliest attempt to reach the North Pole points and to satisfy that curiosity was made by Sir Martin Frobisher of England. Look it up. Research. Come on. In 1578. But the notable accomplishment of just reaching the pole point could in no manner permit determination of territory extending beyond the pole point and out of bounds of the theorized Earth globe. One is not permitted a vista of polar territory to almost unlimited horizons as one is in viewing the plains of Kansas. One's determination must be based solely on the mathematical formula, which maintains that the geographic point reached is in fact the end. And though infinity extend beyond in a continuous land and water course, men would have no reason or inclination to penetrate that course if concept holds that such course did not exist. You're on a ball spinning forever. Therefore, though the space myth did not restrict movement to the polar areas of an assumed Earth's ending, it did most definitely restrict movement beyond such supposed Earth ends, where men believe they would be projected into space, assumed to exist beyond the ends. It's the same way they lied and said, hey, if you cross those waters, you'll fall off. And they crossed the waters and they found what? Another world. Right? We're like a celestial world to these people. And what they do with it, what they do to our trees, we're going to get more in on it. So you keep going, what do you find? Other worlds. Now do you see the play? Hence the awesome conjectured northern and southern space of the Copernican theory erected the identical barriers to northern and southern progress as the obsolete Ptolemaic theory had imposed on movement east and west from the old world prior to 1492. How fearful has been the word space. So some of that kind of got merged last time when we read our chapter 1. Now we've finished chapter 2. Now we can go to chapter 3. Again, my intent is not to read everything cover to cover, but just to take a nice bite out of this, you know what I'm saying? And, let's get a little bit of this chapter 3 right quick. A modern Columbus seeks a Queen Isabella. All right, so here we go. We're going to go right back into our indigenous drop. Now that we know who we are and who they're talking about, it's always about you. Always about you. Always about the seed. Returning to the 1927-28 quest of the pilgrim to whom the chapter title refers. That's you. Oh, the pilgrim. Oh, okay, we're talking about Columbus, but it's still about you. And as press accounts at that time described him, we can review his lonely pilgrimage from the Cardinal's Brighton mansion along a lonely homeward course, and in a disturbed vigil of ensuing months and years, he was taunted by the Cardinal's parting words. If it is so, the world will know it. Silently, but no less firmly, he answered their thudding echoes. Yes, my Cardinal, it is so, and by God, the world will know of it through my telling, for I will, though earth and hell oppose me. He could not then foresee the combined forces of life would weave the pattern of his movements, so that he must tell, even though it beggar of him worldly values and leave him outcast in the eyes of men. He was not to be consulted by the force that relentlessly drove him forward, and if he tried to escape the burden and responsibility, as try he did at times, he was mercilessly scourged by the mean expressions of man's inhumanity to man, and fitting compensation for his periodic forlorn attempts to abandon his endowment. There were none in whom a dreamer so endowed could confide. Alone, he was compelled to chart a forsaken pilgrimage leading to his avowed goal of universal dissemination of his work and ultimate confirmation. Where would he go? To whom could he and would he divulge the devastating secrets cooled from the hidden depths beyond acceptable standards of perception? All right. In any really determined quest for light, a beacon, be it ever so feeble, throws its rays to guide the seeker's course. Hence, there was brought to that early pilgrimage the name of one who, though serving the interests of the traditional and the entrenched, was by no means lacking in perception. To him, in the District of Columbia, the quest was conducted. Arriving at the national capital, the pilgrim hastened to the offices of Science Service, where he met with one of the few open-minded men of science. With such open-mindedness, he was able to perceive beyond the established pattern of cosmological values. Dr. Edwin E. Slauson, then the fearless director of the Science Service, patiently listened to a dramatic recital without parallel, which described how one mighty journey straight ahead from the supposed Earth ends to arrive at celestial land areas, how movement up is always relative, and apparent up points of the universe will be attained by moving straight ahead in a manner comparable to the western sailing of Christopher Columbus to go to the east. Dr. Slauson was not an astronomer, nor was he afraid of space phantoms. However, though he fully grasped the import of sensational disclosures, he was obliged to counsel Giannini, "You will not find 10 open-minded men of science throughout the entire country." Ain't that the truth? So now we say, oh, it's science, and now you're dealing with science that is not open-minded. Therefore, they have theories, and they just solidify those theories as fact with no proof. Right? Gravity is a fact with no proof. Despite such sincere counsel, 10 men of tolerance were thereafter ardently sought. It mattered little to the pilgrim whether they bore the label of scientists or something else. If they existed and could exist in the cause, they should be found. Zeal born of relentless observation would tolerate no cessation cessation of the quest, which was expected to develop the means for adequate disclosure and ultimate confirmation of perception's extraordinary findings. He realized at an early date in the pilgrimage that expensive stratosphere ascent and elaborately equipped expeditions beyond the North Pole and South Pole would be required for a central confirmation of his disclosures, and with such realization, he was painfully aware that he was a dismal pauper. According to the world's standard of views, he had no way of knowing then that his utmost wish would be gratified through the physical initiative of others who would see to it that the confirmation would be developed. They required stratosphere ascent and expeditions would be made. We're going to continue to know what's going on with these expeditions. We're in page 46 in chapter 3. We are digging on it. Yeah, I just want to switch it up and just kind of get that first this time. But, we'll come back. Hopefully we have a little time left. We'll get some Abizaid. I think we're in chapter 3 or 4 of that as well. I like combining what we're doing right now with the trees beyond the poles because it's all about our habitat. So if it's about our habitat and if it's something that is worth digging on, that's what we're going to do, man. So definitely get chapter, part 3 if you ain't. This is part 4, as you know. I mean, more people are talking about the trees. This is some good drop right here. Don't know if we have time to get into it today, but it continues the tree drop. But how about for now, Higher Mars dropping that drop, man. Definitely check out Higher. Anybody want to learn about crystals? Why crystals, you say? Because we're talking about silicon trees, man. We're talking about crystallization. If all the stones came from trees, then crystals came from trees. And they have different frequencies, right? Remember Avatar? A lot of people getting on the Avatar again. Everybody check out Avatar. Check out Avatar. You'll see what we're talking about. You'll see what happened. But somebody dropped this, you know what I'm saying? Somebody in Drop Nation said, hey, what about crystals? Peace. And I said, crystals. Now we're going to get to the root of it all. Kings de Uno. Now we're going to say, okay, so when Adam was created and was shining as a crystal and was given dominion over creation, fire, water, air, and land. It's all about the crystals, baby. You want your frequency back? Let's learn a little bit about crystals. All right, let's dig on some science drop. Let go. Copyrighted 1958. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We're going to go back to get the drop. Let's get the babies out.
I suppose most of you have seen a crystal at one time or another, probably in a natural history museum or in a chemical bottle. Here's an unusually big crystal, dug out of a clay pit in Brazil. Here's a smaller one, broken from the side of a cleft in the rock in Arkansas. But crystals aren't always big, beautiful things like this. As a matter of fact, crystals are everywhere. The salt you use to flavor your food, for example, it consists of little crystals of sodium chloride.
What?
You can see their shapes by looking at them through a magnifying glass. Little cubical crystals of sodium chloride. Snow. Here are some enlarged pictures of single snowflakes. Each is a single crystal of water. Here's a crystal I like especially well, probably because I made it myself. It's a crystal of alum. As a matter of fact, you can make a crystal just like it. I put some directions in the film notes in case you want to do it yourself. You buy the alum you need at a drugstore and grow the crystal in a mason jar. If you do this, I'm sure you'll be very much impressed by one thing. The crystal keeps growing, maybe for a week. It keeps getting bigger, but all the time, it has plain faces, meeting in sharp edges. You can see I haven't ground the faces on this crystal or polished them at all. This is just the way the beast grows. It almost seems as if you were getting something out of nothing. Something with a shape all its own, which it decides all by itself throughout its career. In order to grow a single perfect crystal as big as this, you have to take pains and let everything happen slowly. But you can see what's actually happening by letting things happen a little bit faster and looking at the business under the microscope. I'm going to take a solution of alum, which is just itching to deposit crystals, and make a little pool of it on the microscope slide, and then add a few little crystals of alum to give the alum something to deposit on. And then get myself in focus and let her rip. There they are. You can actually see them grow if I turn now to a higher magnification. The little crystals keep pretty much the same shape as they grow, just getting bigger. Naturally, they all sit down on the microscope slide on one of their biggest faces. So you see the shape of the crystal depends mostly on what the crystal is made of, and not on its size, so long as it's free to grow in all directions. Now, crystals don't only grow out of solutions. They grow out of gases. Snowflakes, water crystals grow that way. And one of the most important places where crystals grow is out of melted materials when you cool them. Here I've got another powder you can get at the drugstore called Ceylon, which melts to convenient temperature. I'll put a little of it on a microscope slide. Then I'll carry it over here to the hot plate and melt it. And now let's go over here to the microscopes. There's one growing, turning very slowly in the liquid as it grows, because it hasn't quite sat down on the slide yet. It seems almost to push those flat faces ahead through the part that's still melted. Of course, you know that the whole crystal isn't moving and shoving its front along. The liquid next to the face is becoming solid and adding itself to the face. But it's doing this in such a way that the stuff added on also forms a flat face, so the crystal keeps its shape while it grows. Now, I'll melt this back carefully on the hot plate so as to leave just a little rounded blob of crystal. That rounded blob will be a single crystal, but it won't have flat faces. Now I want you to see what happens when this cools down again under the microscope. There it goes, growing the faces it wants to have, filling in the hollows and squaring off the rounded corners so that its boundaries are all flat again. Notice now what happens when two crystals bump into each other, so to speak. They don't push each other around, they just stop growing where they meet, because they've used up all the stuff to grow with there. So the boundary between two crystals isn't necessarily one of the natural faces on either of them. The boundary line just depends on how the crystals happen to come together. When the whole thing is finally frozen, you have a dense mass of crystals. Maybe no single one of them shows any of its natural faces, but the whole mass is made up of crystals just the same. Almost all rocks are made up this way. Granite's a good example. Here's a hunk of it.
Almost all rocks are made up this way. But what, 7,000 years ago, there are no rocks because the rocks are the trees. My man Uno, man, broke it all the way down. He said, man, what if they carved the pyramids out of, the trees, that became stone, Hey, what I mean? Now we can ask the right questions, right? So all the rocks are formed like this, so we're only talking about crystallization. Let's go.
Take a close look at it. You can see grains of the different colored minerals which make up granite.
Crystal trees, man. Crystal trees.
Here's a grayish grain of quartz. Here's a grain of pink feldspar. And the little black flecks are grains of a kind of mica. And each of these grains will be a single crystal. Notice that the three things don't mix together in the solid. They crystallize out in separate grains. Before I get through, you'll begin to see why. When you came in, I was melting some bismuth in a crucible over here, and it's been cooling. And crystals ought to have formed on the sides of the crucible, so that when I pour off the part of the bismuth that's still melted, you can see them.
Y'all making crystals with me? Let's go.
Sometimes you can show up the crystals in a finished piece of metal by polishing the surface and then etching it carefully with something that will eat away the metal. Here's a cast brass door handle, which the manufacturer polished, and then over the years, the sweat on people's hands etched it, and now you can see the boundaries between some of the crystals which make up that door handle. In most pieces of metal, the crystals are much smaller than these crystals, because they've been broken up when the metal was drawn or rolled or hammered into shape. But the metal is crystalline just the same. Well, so almost all solid things are made of crystals. In fact, if you ask a physicist these days to define a solid, he'll probably say a solid is a bit of matter that is crystalline. Of course, that doesn't seem to get him very far, because somebody is sure to ask what...
A solid is a bit of matter that is crystalline. Crystallized solid. A crystallized matter is a solid, right? According to what the scientific definition is. Of course, we know matter isn't really matter like a physical. It's just the vibration of these particular particles or atoms. And they say, well, an atom is 99% empty space. So is anything really solid? You see how we're going around in circles? So that's why we're going right to the heart of this thing. Let's go.
What do you mean by crystalline?
What do you mean?
But he's got an answer to that one. The answer comes in two parts. The first part says, all matter is made of atoms. The second part says, in crystalline matter, the atoms are arranged in regular order. I want to talk a little more about what he means by this and show you a little of the evidence for it. The idea is that the crystal is a pattern of atoms, a regularly repeated pattern of atoms, like the regularly repeated pattern of a wallpaper.
Pattern.
If the atoms were flat and made a two-dimensional crystal, they might be taking up an orderly arrangement, like this arrangement of pennies on the table. In 3 dimensions, they might be making an arrangement like these bearing balls, closely packed together. Of course, these close-packed arrangements aren't the only arrangements the atoms might take.
Like a pyramid,
They're just simple examples of what I mean. Now, already, perhaps, you can see what these two ideas, the idea that a crystal is made of little units, atoms or molecules, all alike, and that those little units are arranged in the crystal in a regular array, you can see how those two ideas would explain what you've been looking at under the microscope. For instance, those alum crystals kept a symmetrical shape as they grew. Now suppose you had a two-dimensional crystal, like with a pattern of atoms like the arrangement of pennies. There are more atoms in solution all around it. But since the arrangement is symmetrical in the crystal, you expect pennies to add themselves on at the same rate here, and here, and here, and so on, because conditions are the same at all those places. The crystal will grow symmetrically and keep its shape, so long as nothing gets in the way and prevents more atoms for reaching the surfaces. Let me show you another kind of evidence for these two ideas. It's a kind of evidence which doesn't come from the process of growth. It comes from the properties of the finished crystal. This is the evidence of cleavage. If you've ever handled mica, you're acquainted with cleavage. The mica crystals you find in nature come apart easily in one direction and not in any other, so that you can split them into extremely thin, tough sheets. The mica acts as if it was made like a book, with a lot of leaves of tough paper. But if you actually try it, you'll get the feeling that there's no limit to the thinness of those leaves of paper. You'll feel that if you were skillful enough, you could split each leaf of the mica in two, and then each of those in two again, and so on. It makes you guess that the atoms in the mica are arranged in great sheets, that the atoms are bonded together very tightly in the sheets, and the bonding forces between the sheets are very small. Just the arrangement of atoms in sheets like that is a kind of orderliness.
Arrangement of atoms in a sheet like that. So now you can imagine higher vibrations on higher vibrations. Crystallized forms of thought, crystallized wave patterns. Remember, if everything's a crystal and if everything is thought, then your thoughts are crystals. Let's go.
There aren't many crystals that cleave as well as mica. Alum, for example, doesn't cleave at all. But a great many crystals do cleave amazingly well. Let me show you the cleavage in this crystal. It's a crystal of nickel sulfate hexahydrate. It cleaves parallel to this face. I'll put the thing down on a little plasticine to hold it in place. I'll take a single-edged razor blade and direct the blade parallel to the face and give the back of the blade a smart tap. She comes apart. And now look at that, as flat as you please. You may say, oh, you picked a special place in the crystal. But look, I can cleave it again, parallel to that same face, and get a thin plate out of the thing. So it isn't a special place in the crystal, it's a special direction in the crystal. Now maybe you will say, oh, that isn't any special direction. You've got a sharp razor blade and you're cutting the thing apart with it. All right, if that's what you think, let me try the same stunt in a different direction. I turn my razor blade in a different direction, and I whack it, and nothing much happens, until I whack it a lot harder. And finally, of course, the thing busts, and there's no nice flat face. It's just broken apart like anything else. Now let me show you the cleavage in another crystal, a crystal of sodium nitrate. Here's a crystal that cleaves in three directions, not just one. I can cleave it here, like this, and I can cleave it here, like this, and here, like this. By the way, you can grow both of these crystals, nickel sulfate and sodium nitrate, by recipes given in the film notes in case you want to play around with the stuff yourself. Sodium nitrate has a lot of interesting properties. It has most of the properties of the mineral calcite. When big crystals of calcite were first discovered about 300 years ago in a quarry in Iceland, the scientists of that day got hold of some, and their studies of the stuff made the first big start in our understanding of crystals.
Whoa. Whoa, did he just say quarry?
Big start in our understanding of crystals.
Did he just say a quarry in Iceland? In other words, a tree in Iceland, a tree stump? Uh-oh, here we go. Hey.
When big crystals of calcite were first discovered about 300 years ago in a quarry in Iceland.
In a quarry in Iceland. One more again.
When big crystals of calcite were first discovered about 300 years ago in a quarry in Iceland.
Wow.
The scientists of that day got hold of some, and their studies of the stuff made the first big start in our understanding of crystals. As I say, sodium nitrate and calcite have many properties in common.
Okay, I was thinking because he has that big crystal, and I said, so that can just keep growing into one big solid piece. That is a tree fiber, damn near. Right? Sodium nitrate, calcite, whatever they're calling these ites and neats, you know, I'm not getting into what they call it. Who knows what the name really is, right? But you saw how he can cleave it in different directions. And I said, wow, you know, that can grow in all kinds of ways. In all directions. You can, man, that's a special crystal, he said. And then he said they found it in a quarry, which is what? A tree stump. Which means that it was part of the tree. The vibration. Whoa.
In particular, they both cleave the same way. When those earlier scientists saw the way calcite cleaves, they had the idea that maybe calcite was made of tiny building blocks, all alike and all having the shape of little cleavage blocks of calcite. You may be inclined to laugh at this and say that calcite, like all matter, must be made of atoms, and atoms don't look like building blocks. Okay, you're telling me. What do the atoms look like? Little hard round iron pellets? Don't let me fool you with those pennies and bearing balls I've been showing you. They just show where the atoms are, not what the atoms look like.
Bang.
For all I know, the atoms look like four-leaf clovers. I want to emphasize that those early scientists produced both of the main ideas which go into the picture of a crystal that we have today. First, they were saying crystals have an ultimate fine structure, the building blocks. We would call them small groups of atoms instead of blocks, but the difference is really more a matter of words than of anything else. Second, they were saying that structure has a regular array. The blocks are stacked up in a regular order, and they keep stacking up in regular arrangement as the crystal grows.
Listen
it turns
up.
out that you can think of any crystal, not only crystals which show cleavage, but any crystal, as made of little blocks stacked up in regular array without overlapping on top of one another and side by side, if you choose the right shape of block. In the case of alum, the right shape of block is a cube. And you can think of the alum crystal as made of little cubes, all stacked up on top of one another without overlapping this way. Notice that I've made the main faces on the model of the alum crystal by stepping back the cubes as I piled them up. At first you might think that would mean that the face would be pretty rough. But you got to remember that these little cubes are really only a few atoms wide. Their sides are only about 1/10,000th of a centimeter long. And you wouldn't feel that roughness or even see it under the microscope.
Pyramid?
One of the things that gave early support to the building block idea was the fact that all crystals of the same stuff have the same angles between corresponding faces. The crystals might be very different in size. They might have grown at different rates on different faces so that they have different overall shapes, like these two alum crystals. Nevertheless, the angles between corresponding faces of all crystals are the same, so long as the crystals are made of the same material. It all suggests very strongly that each material forms its own building block, which gets repeated again and again as the crystal grows.
So you see how the pyramids either are created like, you know what I'm saying, we might get back to some of that spirit science. I love getting in there, getting through all them hijacks just to get, a few of them babies out, you know what I mean? But You know, it says that Thoth created it in a higher dimension and lowered it down. They know the pyramids were now created from the top to the bottom, built from top to bottom, not bottom to top, which blows everybody's mind. Now you can see it in terms of it being a part of a tree. Maybe they were, you know, building from the top to the bottom based on the fact that you could, because it's just a part of the tree, right? You're just carving out a part of a tree. However, it's going down. Now we can at least be able to see somewhat on the realm of reality. Let's get a few more minutes of this.
Now, turn back for a moment to the microscope and remind yourself of what is happening while a crystal grows. Atoms are constantly arriving at the surfaces and adding themselves onto those surfaces in an orderly way, and they're doing this at an amazing rate of speed. The crystals you're looking at are growing fairly fast. Suppose a crystal grew at the rate of only a couple of millimeters a day, which is fairly slow. You can calculate that about 1,000 layers of molecules would have to be laid down per second on the surface of that crystal. And all the molecules have to be laid down in the right sort of order. I want to borrow a trick from Sir Lawrence Bragg to give you just a rough idea of some of the things that we think must go on as a crystal grows. Sir Lawrence blows soap bubbles. He blows them in a pan of soapy water, tiny bubbles which rise to the surface and collect in rafts. The bubbles behave a little like atoms because when they're floating on the water, they attract one another a little. And when they touch, they stick to one another quite strongly, as atoms do. But, again, like the atoms, they have a squashy sort of size, so that they take up space. Watch how the bubbles collect together into an orderly arrangement. It's the same as the arrangement of pennies I showed you, the so-called close-packed arrangement. Notice that the rafts are made of large parts. All of the parts have the same sort of order, but the orderliness of the parts is turned in different directions, so that there are grain boundaries between the parts. This is like a solid made of lots of crystals which started growing in different places and finally joined. It's like...
Now, you can see the structure. You can actually see the six-pointed star when you look in this, right? Or you can see it as a cube if you look at that way. But you can see the six-pointed, you know, all that kind of stuff is all sacred geometry. Now, you apply this to let there be light, you know what I'm saying, with word, with wisdom. The frequency of wisdom, you know what I'm saying, the frequency of the vibration of existence, you know what I'm saying. When you look at the Sematis experiments and how the sand, you know, relative to the medium of sound, how sound and frequency, vibration is affecting sand or water, you know what I'm saying, water and sound, and how that forms this light, crystallization. You apply sand or sound to this crystallization, you have order in whatever frequency the sound is applying it. That is consciousness. I'm conscious, brother. Well, whose conscious are you in? You can't just make up your own order. You think you can just get out of line because you want to? It is order to destroy chaos. You're watching order. Let's go.
Like the Ceylon after it is all solidified, or that brass door handle. When you think of how fast the atoms have to get into order, much faster than this, the more astounding their achievement seems to be. But this will give you some little idea of what a hustle and bustle must really have to go on an atomic scale. Sometimes when the molecules are very big and have an irregular shape, they're too sluggish to get themselves arranged into order. Then they congeal into a glass. A glass is very much like a liquid, but it's like a liquid in which the molecules are no longer able to move past each other. It has patches of order in the midst of disorder.
Order in the midst of disorder. Do you think this is play? When we say order over chaos, what came first, chaos or order? Listen up.
The disorder is frozen in place, so to speak, itself rearranged into order.
The disorder's frozen in place and can't get itself rearranged into order. What else?
Liquids and gases are pretty disorderly arrangements of molecules. And gases are the most disorderly arrangements of all.
Gases.
The only order in gases is the arrangement of atoms grouped in each molecule of the gas. Later in this course, you'll learn more about gases. But already, you can see why gases are so very much alike in a great many ways, whereas there are so many different kinds of solids. The only way gases can differ is in the kinds of molecules they are made of. But solids can differ also in the kind of orderliness which those molecules take up in the crystals which comprise the solid. I can show you this selectiveness actually happening in some of the materials you've already looked at. I'll melt some salal on the hot plate over here. There. And bring it over to the microscope and let it cool down so that it wants to crystallize. Then I'll seed the salal with a tiny crystal of alum. Nothing happens. No salal will crystallize on it. Now, I'll seed the melt with a few little crystals of salal. And you can see the salal crystals grow, leaving the alum crystal unaffected. The orderliness of alum is not the right kind of orderliness for salal, and the salal simply waits until the right kind of orderliness is presented to it.
Wow.
And I think now you can see what I promised you would see about granite. Why it is that the three different ingredients, quartz, feldspar, and mica, form three separate kinds of crystals in the granite and don't form just a single crystal in which the molecules of quartz, feldspar, and mica all take part together. It's because those three kinds of molecules normally form crystals with three different kinds of order. When the three kinds of molecules are all together, they can't find a kind of order which is common to all three of them. So they crystallize out separately, each in its preferred way. You know, after 20 years of growing crystals, I still find the whole business nearly miraculous. You go to the microscope to watch it, and it happens again. And you know that the atoms are at work, busily, almost unerringly, constructing something. Something regular, something orderly, constructing something which, from an atom's point of view, is simply enormous.
Order over chaos. It's all about order. There's only order once you see. So you have to get out of chaos. Let's keep this going.
Crystals, what are they? No, seriously, look at all these amazing structures and forms. They're beautiful, they're powerful, and they're life. Crystals are...
We're only talking about trees, people. Why do the trees matter? The trees are the grid. The trees are the frequency. The trees are the communication. The trees are the record keepers. The trees are the nurture. Let's go.
The essence of life manifesting within the earth, the blossoms of the mineralogical portion of the earth. Recognition of these energies and forms of crystals can greatly benefit your personal growth. It is a very basic
I
consciousness.
just need to get that image again.
And their life.
Are we in a tree? I quit. I quit. This might be my final drop. Because I just can't take this no more. Stuff is happening that is beyond any of my intentions, man. Is this are we in a tree? Are these just huge crystals inside trees? Why did they quarry out all of our trees? What did they gather What do they mean by this is a rich land? Rica, America, rich. What do we have that they didn't have?
Crystals are the essence of life manifesting within the earth.
Life.
The blossoms of the mineralogical portion of the earth.
Are we in a tree? These are people. Are they in a tree? Let's go.
Recognition of these energies and forms of crystals can greatly benefit your personal growth. It is a very basic consciousness, not as intricate or advanced as some life on Earth. Crystals definitely don't have the thinking capacity of humans, or even the biological reproductive systems of plants, but they are life. And today I'm going to show you how this works.
Here we go, that symbol again. Oh, hijack 101. Let's get the babies out. Get them babies out the bath water. About to make our dismount. Let's go.
Crystals are defined as being a mineralogical body with a characteristic internal structure and enclosed by a...
Slow down, man. Damn. Some of us is just chilling. A mineralogical body with a characteristic internal structure. A mineralogical body with a characteristic internal structure. Whew. What else? And enclosed by a symmetry of plain faces. Alright, man. Who's the author of confusion? Y'all just saw that symbol that they put up, right? Y'all saw the hijack. Is this how the Most High would describe crystals, or is this some bullshit abstract definition? Let's go.
Symmetry of plain faces.
Okay, man.
They are, however, much more than that. We've discussed before that everything in the universe is a vibration, existing through many different frequencies at once. Our physical bodies are on this physical plane, but the sounds that we hear vibrate to a different frequency, as with smells and even thoughts. Crystals also vibrate to many frequencies at once.
Whoa, as with smells and thoughts. So when you had certain incense being burned with sacrifices, certain smells vibrate to higher dimensions. Thoughts. Let's go.
Health is the natural state of any form in the universe. Considering the vibrational existence of reality, health comes when frequencies of anything are in balance and harmony with itself. When patterns of energy are disrupted, we experience a state which we know as disease, which is a body that's not at ease. The resistant, discordant energy patterning is responsible for every negative symptom we experience, everything from headache to cancer. Crystals and gemstones have a vibration that is free of resistant patterns. They are among some of the structures in the physical dimension which have the most balanced, cohesive, strong, and intentional frequencies. Their unchanging physical structure is a reflection of their innate energetic pattern of balance and strength, which are incorruptible. In the physical world, you pick up a crystal and feel it as something separate from you that you're just holding. But on higher frequencies, you're actually interacting with that stone energetically. This interaction then causes changes to your structure and psychology through your own energetic systems. It begins a process of rebalancing the energetic structure of your body, and in a sense, can help you heal. Now, consciousness is of course the determining factor of if you are going to be accepting of these new frequencies coming into your being through crystals. I'm not going to say crystals will heal you, because if you fight them and are non-receptive to these frequencies, you will continue to create the disharmony within yourself. Ultimately though, crystals can be used to retune your whole being back to a state of harmony and flow. Crystals have been used and revered since the dawning of civilization. In fact,
whose civilization? The dawning of our civilization, or of this discovery of the new world civilization? Man, I'm telling you, man, go watch Avatar again, and when they go, they're going to a new world, which is what? You don't understand. You're actually a new world to them. A recent discovery. And they, I mean, look what they did with the place. Now, we're just talking about crystals, and we're talking about harmony and vibrations and all these vibrations of crystals. Now, these people are going to get real abstract and just think about the crystals. You got to think about the trees. If these large-ass crystals hold these powerful vibrations and energy, and they are a network of crystallized frequency vibrational energy. You didn't need pyramids. You had crystal trees. Crystal trees, I say. Alright? Now you see the importance of vibrating with your mountains and wilderness, because your mountains are the tree stumps. And certain mountains hold certain vibrations, which might be why Mount Nebo or Mount Zion is so important. And maybe their mountains had other type of crystals, other type of frequencies. Not all crystals are good crystals. Let's go.
The Christian Bible refers to crystals over 200 times. Precious stones were used in the foundation of New Jerusalem. They were also used in the breastplates of Aaron, the Hebrew.
You see how they keep... I'm not making this shit up. Let's go back. So they got the precious joints are in the breastplates, or, you know what I'm saying, built with New Jerusalem. Did you know that? That crystals got... What are we talking about? We're talking about trees.
Though, crystals can be used to retune your whole being back to a state of harmony and flow.
Bang.
Crystals have been used and revered since the dawning of civilization. In fact, the Christian Bible refers to crystals over 200 times. Precious stones were used in the foundation of New Jerusalem.
Bang.
They were also used in the breastplates of Aaron, the Hebrew high priest. Crystals have been discovered in the ruins of Babylonia and in ancient tombs of Egyptian and Chinese rulers.
Come on, man.
This wouldn't be spirit science without some sacred geometry, though. Remember the 5 platonic solids? Science understands that all atomic patterns and molecular structures were based on these 5 forms. They create the forms that the universe manifests through. Well, here's the atomic structure of a beryl crystal. It's the flower of life, the creation pattern, flowing through the structure of this crystal. Now, not all crystals are like that molecularly, but they are very geometric. There are 6 categories of crystals. Of course, there are lots and lots and lots of kinds of crystals, but no matter how many there are, they will always be in one of these categories: isometric, tetragonal, hexagonal, orthorhombic, monoclinic, and triclinic. For the most part, all of these systems are derived from the hexahedron, also known as the cube. One of the biggest things about crystals is that they can transmit frequencies. From a metaphysical perspective, we can transmit thoughts and emotions through crystals.
Whoa. All of these are built out of the hexahedron, also known as the cube. Now you see the hexagon structure of the trees and the tree fibers, the honeycomb structure. So out of that hexagon structure, all 6 of these crystals can fall into the category because they all come out of that geometric structure, that sacred geometry. So in these trees are all types of things, all types of crystals. Everything is possible in the trees. Let's go.
But scientifically, does that make sense? Would you believe it if I said that pretty much all of modern computing technology was based on the living element of crystals?
Trees.
Consider the radio. The first radio was a crystal set. They would cut a piece of quartz crystal and touch a wire to it. The frequencies transmitted through the crystal.
The quartz!
That's right. The molecular arrangement of quartz is very stable and has a measurable frequency. And
Trees.
because of this, it can be used in basic technology. Nobel Prize winner Marcel Vogel discovered that crystals can be reprogrammed as silicon chips in a computer, and can also be programmed with the energy of consciousness. He discovered that when a person...
My bad, I got excited. Silicon chips, y'all heard it? We just talked about silicon trees, and now we got silicon chips. Remember in LA, we got Silicon Valley. Now we get it. The trees, man, the trees. The network. They're using our trees and the same silicon crystallized trees to create all their technology from. So all their technology is just knockoff from the technology of the trees that connected to Heya above the firmament. The technology above the crystallized vibration that this first barrier, this first heaven can't get above. This first heaven is the underworld. These are the crystals that don't vibrate above the crystallized vibration above the firmament. You are made in that crystallized structure to vibrate above to the throne of Heya existence. You are made in the specific signature of energy, which is the image of the Creator. Negro, let go.
person uses a computer, thoughts are transmitted into the computer by pressing on a keyboard. That information is stored in silicon chips via the medium of electricity. Thought is a form of energy which can be given direction through what we call intention. He concluded, due to this discovery, that crystals could also be programmed without the need for electricity, by using just thoughts as the informational energy. Another interesting find is that quartz is composed of silicon and oxygen, a combination known to geologists as the building block of all minerals. The living element within crystals is silicon. Science found in the 50s that silicon shows the same principles of life as carbon, except
Silicon trees. Before the carbon era was the silicon era. Before carbon trees and all this just wood stuff was silicon. And everything breaks down from the periodic table from it, your trees. Why do we care about the trees? Only unnatural people will ask that question. Why the trees? Let's separate the wheat from the tare.
exactly 1 octave down on the periodic table from carbon is silicon. Sponges deep in the ocean made from 100% silicon were also discovered, which shows that silicon life doesn't just work in theory, but they actually exist right here on this planet. But get this, the Earth's crust itself is made out of silicon. It's 25% silicon, but silicon bonds with just about everything. So the Earth's crust is actually roughly 80% silicon compound.
Which, of course, we know we're not on a ball. Look at these. These people got real pictures of everything, but they still can't get a real picture of Earth. And they want you to think does that look real to you? Where's the stars? Where's the satellites? We can't just see the 20,000 satellites? Why is that a painting? Why is the best they can do in spirit science is give us a painting of Earth? A painting. You should be disgusted at the effort to give you a painting of the Earth. They couldn't find one fucking image of Earth to give you. This thing went viral. They couldn't give you one picture of the Earth. They still could only give you a painting. 80% silicon compound. You had silicon trees, which is how they got silicon technology. By destroying your trees, they destroyed your network, and they hijacked you into their own Christ consciousness grid that kept you at 440 hertz, which is why the Pyramid of Giza in the King's Chamber vibrates at 440 hertz. You research it. The links are below. Let go.
We're literally floating out in the middle of space on a giant crystal ball.
Oh, come
the
on,
term
man.
Mother Earth never had so
No. We're on a crystal. Everything is crystal. We are crystal. We're not floating on a ball, motherfucker.
much meaning is now, as we learn that the entire planet itself is a conscious, living being. She's
That's
aware of
true.
you and everything going on her body. The energies within crystals are universal. Therefore, when you connect with a mineral and are open to receiving what it has to offer, and begin to play creatively through your higher self, you can contact and synthesize the energies from which the entire universe is comprised. This is why crystals are so powerful, and why they must only be used through the highest consciousness of the individual.
This is why trees are so powerful. So imagine you as a tribe around your trees, your frequency. Oh boy, we got to go home. Our trees need us.
Right intention during the use of crystals further serves to connect your personal energy with that of the crystal kingdom, helping you get to a place of love, of light, and the good of all. Although each and every one of us has an infinite power of the universe within the self, we as humans always like having that support from something external from us. Every crystal form has its own individual energy and its own personality. Each can be used in unique ways to assist one in understanding the nature of existence, or moving forward on our own life path destiny as we're consciously experiencing it. I feel that right now, as people are waking up, we're becoming more and more aware of our ancient knowledge and wisdom. Part of that information that is returning to us is the nature of crystals. I see crystals as being very monumental in the evolution of humankind. They could provide a lot of love, light, and insight for many who are struggling with their own inner demons in this coming time. Things are getting more and more intense, but it's also providing people with the opportunities that they need to raise their own vibrations and frequencies to a level of light and happiness. Healing has to come from within. I'm not going to say that if you just get crystals, you'll be happier or smarter or heal better. However, think of it like being with a close friend who really cares about you. They will provide their energy and attention to you to help you find yourself in this time of need. Crystals are like that. They will give you support if you allow them to, and open up your heart to the frequencies that they are emitting. So where can you get crystals? Well, there are several options. The easiest is probably just to find a local metaphysical store. There are usually at least one or two, if not more, metaphysical shops in every city. You can find tons of pocket stones, usually ranging from 50 cents to $2 or $3. Of course, the bigger and bigger crystals you get, the more expensive they become. If you're hunting for bigger gems to purify the frequencies in your house, it's always fun, and cheaper, to go gem mining. Some gem mines actually allow you to go in with a pickaxe and mine your own crystals, and others have sand and water mining as well. This is a really fun experience, and I highly recommend it for...
How much do you bet these gem mines are just our trees that they continue to quarry? And they find a big mine, what is just a tree, the roots of trees, nothing but crystals. And if trees are crystals, what was Adam? And what are you as the frequency and the seed of Adam? Crystals. So how do you activate? You crystallize. How do you crystallize? Get in order, get in line, let's go.
For anyone who's exploring crystals. Also, I feel it's important to note that if you have crystals and you want to learn what they are, simply do a Google search for crystal properties. There are tons of sites on the web which provide information on the particular frequencies or personalities of crystals. Crystals and gemstones are one of the most powerful tools available for us in the physical dimension right now. And like all tools, the key to maximum utilization is to learn how to consciously implement the tool. If we consciously recognize that our own electromagnetic fields are impacted by the energetic quality of each crystal and gemstone, we would see that they create an alchemical response within our own bodies and psychology, which would allow us to use them as the powerful tools that they are. We could use them on a daily basis to promote health, awareness, growth, and evolution within ourselves and the multidimensional lives we lead. On my cosmic travels through life, reality, and the universe, I have come across many things. One of the most amazing of these revelations, however, is knowledge about crystals. What they are, we already know. But what can you do with them? Many of you may have crystals already, but without knowing what you can do with them, they just sit on your shelf, influencing your energies from afar. Today, we're going to look at practical uses of crystals in your everyday life. The first thing we need to discuss is how to charge your crystals. Just like us, crystals need sustenance. Well, they won't die if they don't get any, but who doesn't love to be fed? One way of charging your crystals are with bigger crystals. By allowing the smaller crystals to receive energy from the points of the bigger ones, you can also just sit small crystals onto a cluster. However, there is a much easier way. Sunlight. Just as we receive energy from the sun, crystals also receive and recharge under the intensified life force rays of the sun.
Trees.
By letting your crystals spend an afternoon in the sun, they will be bursting with juicy energy for quite a while.
Trees.
Think of crystals like a rechargeable battery, and by leaving it in the sun, it recharges and stores energy to give to you.
Trees.
If it's running on low, the frequencies that it emits will not be as strong as if it would be at a full charge. You can also cleanse your crystals by allowing them to bathe in salt water for a while. If possible, use sea salt or pink Himalayan salt. If you live near the ocean, you can also let them bathe in the ocean itself. You can also sage your crystals, which is very beneficial for cleansing them and keeping them happy. Letting them sit in brown rice for 24 hours centers and grounds the crystals and balances their male and female energies. When you first get your crystals, whether it's through a gift or you dig it up yourself or bought in a store, it's usually important that you dedicate your crystals. This can be done by holding onto it and consciously intend that the crystal only be used for love, light, and the goodness of all.
Boom. And we'll get more of this later, but dedicating the crystals, right? So now, yeah, okay, so you can say, yeah, light and love, yeah. Or you can say another form of dedication, right? Whatever you can use this way, you can use that way. So now you see how people can take strong, powerful crystals that it's not the crystal that's good or bad, or it's the intent of it. So the intention of the crystals that's mostly coming out of these trees is this positive vibration. But there are some with other intentions that have been put on them. Right? And that's what we're getting into. And that's how they've hijacked us. They've hijacked our crystals. They've hijacked our frequency. This is part 4 of World Beyond the Poles. No Force on a Flat Earth. Abizaid. This is going to be a 6-part series. So expect at least 2 more parts. And I'll try to shut up. Love y'all.